Welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Mrinmoy Pramanik. I teach comparative Indian language and literature at the University of Calcutta. Today we will discuss Indian writing in English, and our module is on Rabindranath Tagore's Gora. The coordinator of this paper is Professor Asha Kothari Chaudhuri, and this content is written by Ananya Bhattacharjee from Guwahati University. Rabindranath Tagore is a major presence when one thinks of Bengal and its culture, a paramount figure in Bengali literature. A collection of poems, Gitanjali, which is translated into English as Song Offerings, secured for him the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1913. He excelled in various genres of art and culture and became renowned as a poet, dramatist, novelist, composer, actor, singer, editor of the Bengali literary journal Sadhana. He composed more than 2,000 poems and 3,000 songs. As a literary genius, he had deep knowledge of the society of his days and was a staunch lover of nature. Tagore founded Shantiniketan in a natural surrounding, thereby giving vent to this passion for nature and a new education system. It is common knowledge that Tagore was absorbed in the world of words, and his imaginative world resulted in the production of a great number of novellas, songs, poetry and plays. During pre-independence time, Tagore traveled to various places to perform and collect funds for the establishment of his university, Vishwa-Bharati. It was during those days that his troupe staged a dance drama, Notir Puja, based on a story he had written, and it was later filmed in 1932 by New Theatres. Tagore is one of the most versatile writers who has innumerable number of works credited to his name. Some of his most memorable volume of poetry are Manoshi, Shonatori, Gitanjali, Gitimallo, Bolaka. Tagore's major plays are Raja, Dagghor, Acholayaton, Muktodhara, Raktokorobi, and he is the author of several volumes of short stories and a number of novels. Among them are Chokher Bali, Gora, Ghore Baire and Jogajog. Tagore had also composed a number of dance dramas, musical dramas. He also wrote travel diaries and autobiographies. Beside these, he also took interest in paintings and drawings. Rabindranath Tagore died on August 7, 1941. The novel Gora, which was published in 1910, deals with the period of colonial Bengal that is marked as the Bengal Renaissance. It is an age of awakening in Bengal in the various fields of philosophy, literature, economics, science and politics. The Bengal Renaissance initially was confined within the elite Bengali society, but later spread out to all socio-cultural classes, including the residential Muslims. This period began with the emergence of Raja Ram Mohan Roy and lasted through the 19th century. Tagore was one of the important leaders of the Renaissance. Two prominent figures of the Renaissance in Calcutta were the formation of association societies and organizations and emergence of innumerable newspapers and magazines. Another in both religious and socio-cultural fields. Western ideas and principles influenced this Renaissance movement in Bengal considerably. Thought about nationalism and independent ruling derived from the West were disseminated by the educated Bengali elite to all the masses through the various organizations, movements and magazines. Now let us introduce the novel. Now let us discuss about the novel. Gora is one of the most ambitious works of Rabindranath Tagore that deals with an individual search of own self. The novel is set in the colonial Bengali society in Kolkata, which was characterized by distinctly two varied forms of religious groups. One was the Orthodox Hindus and the other was the modernized and liberal Brahmos. Both these groups were in conflict with each other, having their own unique principles and customs, and such a scenario is represented in the novel Gora. The protagonist of the novel, Gaur Mohan or Gora, belongs to an Orthodox Hindu family. His father had been killed during the Sepoy mutiny, and his mother, who was originally Irish, died the next day following the death of his father. Gora's foster parents are Krishna Dayal and Anandamoi, who look after Gora with much love and sympathy. As a boy, Gora was high-spirited, energetic and confident, but he was also an Orthodox Hindu and a staunch Indian patriot. He cautioned his friend Binoy Bhushan Chatterjee not to mix with the Brahmos, but not only did he become intimate with the Brahmo family, he also married a Brahmo girl named Lolita, much to Gora's disappointment, who was strictly against inter-community marriage. Binoy was initially in love with Sucharita, foster daughter of Paresh Chandra Bhattacharjee, a Brahmo who was a matured and sober man, respected by all the members of his family, and also supports Sucharita whenever she faced any problem. Binoy, as he was attracted towards Sucharita, started visiting Paresh Babu's house, pretending to meet his new friend Satish, who was Sucharita's brother. When he became close with the members of the family, his infatuation for Sucharita fades away. Binoy becomes friends with Boroda, Sucharita's foster mother, who tries to initiate Binoy into the Brahmo Samaj. Boroda changed Sucharita's real name, which was Radharani. Haran is a family friend and has close acquaintance with the family of Paresh Babu. He is also unofficially engaged to Sucharita. Haran feels skeptical about Hindu custom and scripture and wanted to remain aloof from the ideas and beliefs favored by the Orthodox Hindu. Gora resented Binoy's interaction with the Brahmo household and persuaded him to stop his relation with the family. But Binoy continued his visit to Paresh Babu's house and eventually fell in love with Paresh Babu's daughter Lolita, and Lolita also reciprocated his feelings for her. Gora, on the other hand, had pledged brahmacharya in order to sacrifice for the cause of his religion and country. Although Gora tries to prevent Binoy from mixing with the Brahmo, he himself feels for Sucharita and is drawn towards her. The conservative views that Gora valued all his life was gradually losing its hold when his father Krishna Dayal died. A number of events changed Gora's perception towards life. The realization of his newly born feelings towards Sucharita, the shock that he derived after the revelation about his birth, his resentment of the Brahmo society, and finally the negligence that he showed towards his mother in his own pursuit. By losing all rigidness, the rigidness of the life, he achieved all the happiness that he wanted. Binoy and Lolita, Gora and Sucharita are united in marriage, and Gora hails his mother Anandamoi as the image of Mother India. Now let us discuss about the process of characterization in the novel. Gora, he is the central character in the novel. He is orphan who was raised by an Orthodox Hindu couple. His main motive in life is to work for his country and Hindu society. As an Orthodox Hindu, he is strongly against any kind of communion with the Brahmo society. Next is Krishna Dayal. He is Gora's father, who was a liberal and modern man in his early days, but gradually returned to orthodoxy in his old days. Anandamoyi, Gora's mother, Anandamoyi brought up Gora with lots of love and affection. She retained her liberal and noble spirit throughout her life. Paresh Babu is a liberal Brahmo, and as the head of his family, he is respected and honored by all. He is the foster father of Sucharita, daughter of his late Hindu friend. And then Boroda, she is Sucharita's foster mother, who changed her real name Radharani to Sucharita. She is a conservative Brahmo. Sucharita, she was born to a Hindu family and later adopted by Paresh Babu. She is young and intelligent lady. She is drawn towards Gora due to his strong nationalistic zeal and loves him in spite of his anti-Brahmo feelings. Lolita, she is the younger daughter of Paresh Babu, who is rebellious and does not conform to any social beliefs and dogmas. Satish, he is Sucharita and Lolita's brother. Binoy, he is Gora's friend, but does not share Gora's conservative views on society. He values personal relationship more than orthodoxy. Horimohini, she is a widow of the Orthodox Hindu community who takes shelter in Paresh Babu's house. And Panu Babu, he is a hypocrite of the Brahmo Samaj, who is inclined to the whites of the colonial India. And then Abinash, he is an active member of the Hindu community as well as great patriot. Nanda, he is a young and energetic follower of Gora, son of a carpenter and a good cricketer. Now let us go into the themes and the issues which are there in the novel. This novel is towards a new Indian culture, the creation of a nationalist self. The strive towards the creation of a new nation went hand in hand with the construction of a new self. The main motive was to put an end to British Raj and the formation of a modern nation state. Many biographies and autobiographies that were published during the colonial period are testaments of the fact that the creation of a new nation should be seen as the manifestation of the creation of a new individual. Shivnath Shastri's Ramtonu Lahiri Tatkalin Bongo Samaj is a socio-historical book of the 19th century Bengal, and Surendranath Banerjee, one of the strongest political leaders of his time in Bengal, wrote his autobiography called A Nation in Making. Both these books and many others showcase the unique merging of the idea of nation and self in the pre-independence times of India. Such scenario is also evident in the novel Gora by Tagore. Gora is set in colonial Bengal during the early period of the 20th century, a period which is marked by the emergence of the nationalist discourse, and novel is set against the background of the consolidation of such discourse. Along with the formation of a nationalist self, there occurred a split, and therefore it was problematic in understanding one's identity formation. The intellectuals of Bengal were preoccupied with the rift that was between nationalism and nationalist consciousness. Ashish Nandi, in his The Intimate Enemy, talks of the same stance that Tagore and Gandhi took in the conflict between the ideologies of the official imperial West and the virile anti-colonial East, and also the marginal forces of both the West and East. Tagore's rendering of the nationalist self in Gora finds its expression before Gandhi's deliberation on the constructed nature of a nationalist self. The concept of classical universalism coupled with maintaining one's traditional organic community was manifested both in Tagore and Gandhi. Nandi also mentions that Gandhi had borrowed his idea of non-violence not from the sacred text of India but from the Sermon on the Mount. One can refer to Tagore here because the religious sect to which he belonged, that is Brahmaism, was also founded upon the ideas that were Western in nature. For example, monotheism, a sacred script, organized religion and one leading god. In this context, it is important to know what Tagore had opined about Raja Ram Mohan Rai and founder of Brahmoism. In Gora, we find that the consolidation of a modern Indian culture that is non-Western shows the mutual contradictions between the realm of the spiritual and the material in the spirit of nationalism. This becomes clear when Gora says, I quote, "It is just because India has desired to acknowledge fully both the opposite aspects of subtle and gross inner and outer spirit and body, that those who cannot grasp the subtle aspect have the opportunity to seize upon the gross, and their ignorance working on it results in their extraordinary distortion. It would never do for us to cut ourselves off from the one who is true both in forms and in formlessness, in materials as well as in spiritual manifestation, or to commit the folly of accepting instead the combination of theism and atheism, dry, narrow and unsubstantial, evolved by 18th century Europe. When his friend Binoy asked him about his imagined community of India and its whereabouts, Gora answers, "They're not in your Marshman's history of India. I may miss my task, I may sink and drown, but that port of a great destiny is always there. That is my India, in its fullness, full of wealth, full of knowledge, full of righteousness." Do you mean to say that such India is nowhere? Is there nothing but this falsehood on every side? This Calcutta of yours, with its officers, its high courts, and its few babbles of bricks and mortar proof. In his essay titled The Imaginary Institution of India, Sudipto Kobiraj observes that the account of a nation like that Gora's is juxtaposed with the creation of national collective self and the narrative of a history of the nation articulated as the history of a community. The next theme which we can find in this novel is political freedom and modernity. Rabindranath Tagore writes in Nationalism, I quote, "India has never had a real sense of nationalism. Even though from childhood I have been taught that idolatry of the nation is almost better than reverence for God and humanity. I believe I have outgrown that teaching, and it is my conviction that my countrymen will truly gain their India by fighting against the education which teaches them that a country is greater than the ideals of humanity." I unquote. The theme of political freedom is recurrent in Tagore's Gora. The idea of nationalism and patriotism is fostered in the representation of the central character of the novel Gora. who is full of nationalized zeal like many of the other Indians during the colonial period. The novel highlights one of the most significant political questions, that is the constant conflict between the ideals of the East and the West. The background of the novel is that of revolt and political freedom from the British rule. As a true Indian and a Brahmin, he vows to serve his country as a loyal servant. Gora visions an imagined community for his nation state, as he says, I quote, "But there is a true India, rich and full, and unless we take our stand there, we shall not be able to draw upon the sap of life either by our intellect or by our heart. Therefore, I say, forget everything, book learning, the illusion of titles, the temptation of servile livelihood. Renounce the attraction of all these, and let us launch the ship towards its post. I at least can never forget that true and complete image of India." I unquote. When Gora and Binoy visited their locality on purpose of some social work, they discovered that Nanda has been dead. He was one of the followers of Gora and a very efficient cricket player. He was the son of carpenter whose agility and enthusiasm was appreciated by others. Nanda stood easily first in every kind of manly exercise. He was the member of the sports and cricket club, where he mixed with the elite as well as the poor sections of the society. Nanda stands as an example of the young generation. The novel Gora has been compared with Rudyard Kipling's Kim many a times for the similarities of in-betweenness seen in the characters of Gora and Kim. Both of them display a sense of cultural miscegenation, but their treatment is differently done by the novelist. Coming to the idea of modernity, it is embedded into the very narrative structure of the novel. Gora's modernity lies in his realization that India will be a better country only if no discrimination exists among its people, and he works for the well-being of not only the people of his own community but of all the people of his society. He regularly pays visit to all the people of his neighborhood who belong to the lower class, but after his contact with them, he realizes that these people are surrounded by poverty and blind beliefs. At the same time, he is also convinced that our country will one day be free, that it will not remain enmeshed in superstitions, and the British will not be able to carry us forever manacled at the back of their trading vessels. Gora's unsureness of the overarching operation of colonialism awakens him to a realization that the universal ideal of modernity will be achieved when colonial hierarchy defies marginalization and identifies with the people who are oppressed under colonial rule. In this regard, one can consider the status of middle-class women who project some kind of modernity within the colonial hierarchy. The issue of modernity can be related to the character of Sucharita and Lolita, but one sees how even this space is limited. In the novel, we find them criticizing Gora's conservative Hindu ideals and think themselves privileged to enjoy a more carefree life. Lolita not only violates the norms of womanliness set by the family, but also refuses to participate in the event hosted by the magistrate who has put Gora in the prison. She protests and leaves for Calcutta alone with Binoy, and this causes a stir in the Brahmo Samaj. She moves a step further from the constructed notion of modernity of the Brahmo sect and projects a kind of modernity that rejects inequalities of all kinds in a colonized country. Other incidents, such as the old man who sheltered a Muslim boy and the Muslim peasant Faru, who refused to listen to the indigo indigo planter, but instead would go to jail, provided great hopes within Gora. The resistance against caste superstition and class oppression shown by the village people establishes the basis of modernity and the anti-colonial consciousness of the youths of Bengali, like Gora, could find some correspondence with it. This anti-colonial modernity also provides a place for the search of identity of the women like Anandamoyi, Sucharita and Lolita in the novel. Anandamoyi says in a context that whatever I have learned comes from Gora, all the same how true man is himself and how false the things about which quarrels divide man from man. What after all is difference, my son, between Brahmo and Orthodox Hindu? There is no caste in men's hearts. There God brings men together, and there he himself comes to them. Anandamoyi's decision of adopting Gora was not inspired by just an emotional call of a mother, but she was fully aware of the social consequences in the future. The same can be said of Lolita, who decides to live with Binoy, thus dissolving the social norm and stricture placed upon a woman by the society. As far as Sucharita is concerned, she thought of herself like Gora's words are not mere words. They are Gora himself. His speech has form and movement. It has life. It is full of the power of faith and the pain of love for his country. His are not opinions that can be settled by contradicting them. They are the whole man himself, and that too no ordinary man. Now let us go into narrative techniques in the novel. The narrative of Gora revolves around the basic conflict between tradition and modernity, conservatism and liberalism, Hinduism and Brahmoism, and so on. These conflicts are dramatized in the novel through the use of various pieces assigned to the characters, arguments and discussions. Tagore uses the third-person narrator, and the tension that is there in the novel is manifested through the use of double characters, for example Gora and Binoy. Sucharita and Lolita. The realization of one's own self is possible by relating it to the other, and the fulfillment of understanding one's identity is achieved outside oneself in its opposite. Irony runs throughout the narrative of Gora, and the most interesting exposition of it is seen at the end of the novel, where Gora loses all the aspects that characterized his early life to establish his identity. That is the caste to which he belonged, his idea of nation, his parentage and so on. Now that is his real identity is revealed. He does not possess anything that marked his identity earlier, but still it is now that he becomes aware of his true self and his role as an Indian. The truth of Gora's parentage is kept as a secret and is revealed to him only at the end of the novel. But ironically, all his comments and ideas are colored by this secret knowledge and perceived by the readers. The narrative of Gora basically has two main episodes. One is the struggle towards political freedom, and the other is Gora's transformation of his own self from the conservative to a liberal and free individual. Now let me summarize the whole discussion. That we know that Gora is very significant creation of Tagore, and we have to read Gora with other writings of Tagore also. As in our discussion we have mentioned about Tagore's idea of nationalism and how Gora becomes, the novel Gora becomes a symbol of revolutionary thought in colonized India. One side it is criticizing criticizing the colonial modernity, and other side it is criticizing the orthodox Hindu traditions and belief system. And Tagore is imagining for a free India, and Tagore's love towards his India is also expressed in this novel, that how it will be the caste free, how it will be free from the class oppression, and how we can be free from the impositions of the colonial modernity. You can have the further readings and some outlines of a whole discussion on screen for your interest. Thank you.